one common scenario and implementation within Azure is the native Azure load balancer. When I have virtual network and I have a number of virtual machines and possibly even services associated with that, I can set up load balancers. And those load balancers, and it's just a resource I create within a virtual network, that load balancer can be set up both internally and externally. So it can be used as an internal load balance. So maybe my web front ends are going through the load balancer to get to the service layer, or that same load balancer could be set up to be an external load balancer as well. So that external communications are coming in through a public IP address, and then that's being load balanced across multiple virtual machines, etc. Okay? But that's all typically within a single location. Another alternative that's fairly common is geographic load balancing. Right? I want to be able to load balance actually beyond the limitations of a single virtual network within a single region. I want to be able to load balance across multiple regions. And there are solutions for that. And one solution for that I think is actually very cool is Traffic Manager. Right? And so that's this guy right here. And Traffic Manager is actually fairly simple to set up. It's really just a DNS load balancer that hands off requests that come into one DNS record, hands it off to another one. So it works a little differently than the standard internal/external load balancer that's part of a virtual network, but it gives you a lot of flexibility. It's pretty easy to set up. It has its own built-in DNS domain name. You can set up your own custom DNS domain name for that. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to load balance, right? So, to draw a fairly crude little diagram here. So let's say I've got my primary site and that's in the East US, right? And I'm drawing this completely backwards. We'll say that's East US. And then I've got a secondary site and we'll say that's somewhere in Europe because that's to the right of the East US. Right? And so I've got my application running in both of these, but what I want to do is I want to have, kind of this third system out here, and this would be my traffic manager, so that all of the requests come into the traffic manager, and the traffic manager has the ability to then redirect that traffic to either one of those sites. Each of those sites, the one in the East US, the one in Europe, both of those could be already internally load balanced, right? So I can layer this on top, and it starts to give you a lot of options in terms of the way you architect your application. And it's all built in this case, to Azure. Now, obviously, you could also use other third-party solutions for that. And this is, on the one hand, it's a general concept in terms of wanting to think about geographic resiliency. On the other hand, it's also, hey, this is given to you, or well, it's not given to you, but this is part of the Azure infrastructure that you can take advantage of. So you want to think about this load balancing not only from the standpoint of simply load balancing, being able to scale out to handle load. You want to look at that in terms of resiliency, but also look at that from a geographic standpoint and say, okay, how can I load balance? How can I use load balancing to provide things like full site redundancy? Because that's really what this is doing. I've got my web application running in multiple sites, and then I'm redirecting traffic across those sites. Now, obviously, there's some other things that go into that, right? Where's the data being stored? How am I making sure that the data is being maintained across multiple geographic sites in a consistent manner? So this is, hey, this looks easy, great, I'm just gonna go get Traffic Manager. There are more things to think about. There are more things you need to implement behind the scenes, but this is a way to implement a solid, resilient architecture.